Hello. Are we working? I see the bit rate has dropped down to the bottom of the depths of despair again. Let's hope that it's not all messed up. Welcome! It's the 12th episode of The Witching Hours. Yay! How exciting. All right, so we have special guests this evening. Don't forget to unmute yourself there. There you go! So we have Irene and Danica, medium and paranormal investigators. And we're going to be talking about their recent excursion into Waverly Hills, which is a crazy sanatorium in Ohio, correct?
Yes. Oh, no, in Kentucky.
Oh, it's in Kentucky. You guys are in Ohio. It's in Kentucky. Yes. It's going to be a wild ride. But first, we have the paranormal news. Jenna Frost.
We do have the paranormal news, and I need your assistance for the news today. So,
yes,
I happen to be home and kind of watching the funeral for the Queen that was happening yesterday. I guess it was.
Yep.
And I was kind of following some social media feeds, and something came up on my Twitter about, hey guys, check this out. So I don't know if people have seen this or not, but there was a broadcast going on ITV, a UK broadcast, that was showing live footage of the Queen's hearse on its way to West London. And then this is what came over the airwaves. Do you want to play that?
So should I play like the screen with the video or just play the audio?
Just play the audio.
Okay. Are you guys ready? Prepare yourself. If you have not heard this yet, it like completely creeped me out. Okay. Okay.
The death is irreversible, and the fact that she's trapped.
As you can see.
Okay, did you guys hear it? I'm gonna play it again. So what's happening in the video it's like a helicopter flying over the street where the hearse is coming down the road. And
hold on one second.
Okay.
So I think our guests, you guys will have to unmute Twitch in order to hear this.
Got it. Hold on. I'm gonna mute here first then.
Okay.
Yeah. So unmute Twitch if you want to hear this.
Yes. Okay, so there's wait. Okay. Well, I'm just explaining what it is.
Okay.
Hello, Crystal and Linguist and Auntie and Norris.
How's everybody doing this evening? Welcome back.
There's a helicopter flying over the street where the hearse is coming down, and the news reporter is getting ready to start talking about it, which is a man's voice. Okay. But before the man starts talking, there's a lady's voice. All right, I'm going to play it again.
The death is irreversible, and the fact that she's trapped.
As you can see.
Did you guys hear it?
No, you know what? We couldn't hear it. You're going to have to go back again.
Listen to it later.
Up on the Discord too. So if you go into, let's do this. If you go into the Discord and you go into
the Witching Hours News.
The Witching Hours News. I'll put the link up there. The video that I originally saw on Twitter is up there. There's some news articles. It's made its way around. So it's pretty clear, almost in some ways, maybe a little too clear. The article that I found about this later is a lady saying her death is irreversible and she is trapped. The fact that she is trapped. And the fact that she is trapped. Now, at first, this led people in Britain to really kind of talk about, there was like wild speculation that they were catching like Princess Diana or the Queen or someone like that in an EVP on the live broadcast. Others have speculated that there was another live mic and that someone was started talking, not realizing that their mic was live. But no one, as far as I've been able to find it, and I've been working today, so I haven't been able to dive down into what's happened today with it. But no one has come out and said that was the situation. So
Yeah, so it says the death is irreversible and the fact that she is trapped. Let's play it. I'm going to play it one more time.
Yeah.
Okay, I'm going to play it again.
As you can see here in London.
No, hold on. I gotta go back to the beginning. Hold on.
We can't. I mean, if there's nothing. There's no sound coming on our
As you
end.
can see.
Try it again.
Can I Google it?
yeah,
Death is irreversible.
All right, let me do a search.
As you can see.
What do they say in it?
The death is irreversible and the fact that she is trapped.
Was anybody else in chat able to hear the audio? Are you guys able to hear the audio? Okay, so you
Yes.
can't hear it like this. Okay. So, that was, I've heard some really clear EVPs I've heard some really clear. If that is an EVP, then that's definitely, it's definitely an interesting one. But like I said, there's also a possibility it could be like a hot mic that, like a producer, was saying something. But still, to say that.
Yeah, like what were they
That's
talking
absolutely-
about? It was, when I listened to it, it gave me like crazy chills.
Amy Burney is the one who posted it first.
Yes, Amy Burney posted it.
But other people had already, of course, she was like down the line after people in England were already kind of freaking out about it.
Yeah.
And we started going through and listening to like Princess Diana interviews and Queen Elizabeth interviews just to kind of hear the voice and see if we could match it up. I mean, it's hard to tell.
It's very hard to tell. Yeah.
But interesting and definitely worthy, I think, as most of Britain mourns the death of the Queen. Interesting paranormal news.
Yeah. Linguist said, how do we know it's not set up? Very true.
It could be. And that's what I'm saying. It could be a
Yeah.
hot mic. It could be, who knows? I'm not familiar with that news station. It's not like it was the BBC.
Yeah.
But definitely worth looking into.
It creeped me out.
Newsworthy. Newsworthy for
Paranormal news. Yeah. All right.
Second thing I have up today is female vampire found in a 17th century grave with a sickle across her throat.
What?
Polish archaeologists have uncovered the remains of a woman thought to be a vampire. The grave of the female vampire dates back to the 17th century, when fears about people returning from the dead were still prevalent. To keep this from happening, the sharp blade of a sickle was placed across her neck. It would cut off her head if she rose from the grave. The researchers also found a padlock on one of her big toes. It's not one of, so essentially, the article goes on.
A padlock, just a padlock just on her toe?
On her toes. They
What
don't
is-
go on to explain
What is that going to do?
I don't know. I'm sure there's some cultural relevance there.
Yeah.
But definitely once again interesting. And we talked specifically with Joe when he came up.
Yeah. Joe
about
Cunningham
that.
talked about the same kind of stuff in Connecticut. Yeah.
So we have this happening in Poland. So as we can see, the fear of vampires and those rising from the dead were a threat, a real threat there. I can post that has a picture of the grave and of the sickle that's placed there. So
Okay.
I can post that.
Put that in the Discord news. Yeah, that'd be cool.
In the Discord news section.
Yeah. But you never knows.
The next article we have today, if anybody's familiar with my favorite topics here, are NASA's James Webb Telescope snaps its first picture of an exoplanet.
Explain what an exoplanet is.
I'm getting ready to.
Okay.
The planet called HIP 65426b is a gas giant with no rocky surface, which means it likely cannot support alien life, according to astronomers who described the images in a NASA blog post published Thursday. The scientists are preparing a paper about the observations, but the findings have yet to be peer-reviewed. The observations are notable, however, because they hint at how the Webb telescope could be used to search for potentially habitable planets elsewhere in the universe. This is a transformative moment, not only for Webb, but also for astronomy generally. Sasha Hinckley, an associate professor of physics and astronomy at the University of Exeter in the United Kingdom, said in a statement. Hinckley led the observation of HIP 65426b with an international team. So the exoplanet is located about 355 light years away from Earth.
Okay.
And was discovered in 2017. Now they're able to snap a picture of it, and I can post this article too because they have different photos of it from different light spectrums.
That's cool.
All of them are either a purple blob, a blue blob, a yellow blob, a red blob. But it's exciting though because being able to find exoplanets was a huge deal, and now being able to actually take pictures of them and then maybe be able to figure out the chemical composition of their atmospheres would be really interesting, I think, moving forward.
That's pretty
And then
cool.
lastly, a Stone Age skeleton missing foot may show the oldest amputation in human history. The 31,000-year-old skeleton of a young adult was found in a cave in Indonesia that is missing its left foot and part of its left leg, and is thought to be the oldest known evidence of an amputation, according to a new study. And essentially, breaking down the article, it talks about how there was like a clean cut in the bone,
Yeah.
and it healed over, and the person lived many years after that
Wow.
was left. If it would have been like an animal that like bit their leg off or something, it wouldn't
It wouldn't have been clean. Yeah.
And so that was found in Borneo, a cave in Borneo, and so it's bringing into questions about what ancient medicine might have looked like. If they were
Yeah.
able to do amputations of legs 31,000 years ago.
And the person survived enough for it to heal. That's pretty crazy.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
once again, interesting, and that was this episode of Witching Hours. Weird news.
Paranormal news. Yay! Okay.
All right, so let's get into it. Today
Yes.
on our show, we have two guests tonight. We have Danica McCann, who grew up in a haunted home in Northeast Ohio. As a result, she began looking for answers about spirit communication at an early age. Even as a busy restaurant manager, her drive for answers has culminated into 15 years of paranormal investigation experience. Investigating businesses and homes, her deep dive into the paranormal would create a strong determination to spend more of her time doing private investigations to help owners understand the activity in their spaces. She realized the best value for this was to join the Tri-C Ghost Hunters team. Since joining over a year ago, Danica and her extensive experience has proven immeasurable to the team. And of course, we have two, and the next guest is Irene Panagopoulos. Grew up in Northeast Ohio. She's a scientist with over 20 years of experience, and just before the pandemic shut down, became a paranormal investigator with Tri-C Ghost Hunters. Since childhood, she has a fascination with the paranormal, and so it seemed obvious she would try her hand at investigations and apply her analytical background to the study of the paranormal. Little did she realize it would lead to her own unexpected path into the world of mediumship. She learned that her interest in the paranormal stemmed from a deep connection with the spirit world that she ignored most of her life. And the many years of life experiences and strong interest in the paranormal actually prepared her for her unexpected journey. Now she uses her scientific background to observe and understand both the paranormal and spirit world around her. One of her goals is to do what she can to help individuals and guide them through fear into a place of understanding and respect for all that is currently unexplained. Everybody, welcome to the show, Irene and Danica.
Yay!
All right. So welcome, guys.
She's got to unmute. There we go.
Hi.
There we go. All right.
Thank you.
So-
Thank you for having us.
Yeah, I'm
Yes,
excited.
it's great to have you on. We're really excited to get into the nitty gritty and some of the stories and what you guys have found on your investigations. But one thing I wanted to ask real quick, because it was in your bio, was that you had worked as a scientist. So what, not to get too deep into stuff we're not talking about tonight maybe, but what kind of field and stuff like that did you work in? What's your background on that?
Technically, I'm trained as a molecular biologist.
Wow.
So pretty much DNA. I worked with early DNA sequence analysis and fluorescent imaging for tumor marginalization as I went along. And then I ended up in industry, and I worked in analytical chemistry labs for a while, but mostly like managed the labs, but also focused on compliance. So yeah, so I have an auditing mind that makes me think about what I'm looking at and audit it and make sure it's valid.
I always think it's really interesting when you have academics, I guess, for a better lack of a better term to talk about in general, but when you have academics who work and are interested and are engaged in the paranormal field. So like overall, like I guess we can get into this more later, but like using that, having that scientific background and stuff like that in the research has to bring like a maybe kind of a different thought process to investigations for you.
It
Like, do you
does.
find it-
No, well, I have to say it does and it did. As we experienced, at Waverly, a few things of, when you start to go into the mediumistic world, it changes a little bit. It's a little, you have to really kind of divide your brain and focus on, is this really something that's happening? How am I going to validate this not only to myself, but now to the team in an investigation? So early on, before the whole medium side of things, yeah, it was pretty straightforward. I wanted repetition. I wanted to see, how the information was gathered to make sure that it was gathered in more of a scientific way than just kind of like, oh, I'm just going to randomly get an EVP over here and randomly get one over here, or my flashlight's going to go off over here, and nothing is done in a consistent fashion to make you believe that it's something valid. And that's, and then it changed a little bit when the medium side came in. So it's kind of a fine balance now of figuring out and validating from both sides whether what I'm looking at is, true, to me, true. To, other people may not agree with it, but yeah. So, and the team helps. Tri-C helps. They're all very, straightforward, and they all care about getting the most reliable evidence. Hope most like the goal is irrefutable evidence, but as you know, in the paranormal world,
Yeah,
it's really hard to
come by.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, like, and I guess the other question, we can move on if you want, but I guess one question I have is, so you started developing like mediumship abilities after like you had already been involved in science and stuff like that, or was that before?
They were already there. I just didn't understand what I had, and things that you think are just kind of like deduction,
Yeah.
it was actually intuition, a hyper awareness, can't always be explained in the physical. That hyper awareness had to come from somewhere else. So those are all things that would happen, and I would kind of brush off and, but still I maintained this fascination with the paranormal world. I couldn't break from that. But I think in a way it was trying to prove to myself that maybe what I was denying and ignoring was possibly real. And so then when I opened the door, I mean, the pandemic opened a lot of things for people, right? When I opened the door and I started to look into it and really start to like do these workshops with Cindy Keza and have, with Jenny, like it was a new experience for me. And she threw you in, you did an exercise, and suddenly like my exercises, like my readings, or early on, kind of images in your mind were validated. It took a long time for me to believe it. It took probably about at least a year before I truly believed that what was coming through was really just something that was coming through from the spirit, not something that was coming from my analytical brain or my deduction brain.
I used to think that too, that I was just deducing things. It was just like I saw things in a clearer way than other people, and I could just Yeah, but no, that's not that's not what it was.
Right.
It's one of the things when I was going over your bio, when I got sent over, and I was looking at it, and I was like, oh, okay, like that's cool. But I wanted to ask about it because it's one of those things that it's just one of those interesting things, like because because I have a connection to it as well. Someone who's kind of an academic who also is like reading runestones and doing tarot readings and looking at like alternative, histories to the past, but at the same time with my historian brain, I'm trying to reconcile all these things with documents. And so whenever I meet someone who kind of has, it's always fascinating because some of the most, out of all the interviews I've listened to and stuff, those are some of the craziest interviews when you have people who have, degrees in astrophysics and stuff, and they're talking about
they're talking about weird stuff anyway,
difficult things, science and stuff like that. I always find it really interesting when they're willing to put like their name out there about it. So anyway,
Irene, we have a question for you. Which clairs are your dominant ones?
I'm finding more so clairvoyance and clairsentience, the knowing and the seeing.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So
I wanted to know
kept up on chat very well.
Before we move on to the Waverly Hills thing, I would like to know some about Danica's haunted house, childhood haunted house. 100%. If you want to share. Yes.
Oh, okay. So yeah, I did grow up in a house where my brother and I experienced a lot there. Voices in the basement, and actually one of our first things we used to do as a kid is we would go downstairs and we would make like recordings and sing songs on an actual, like an old school cassette recorder. Mm-hmm. And we would play them back and we would hear things on the recorder. And that was my first learning of an EVP without even knowing what an EVP was.
Wow. Because
we heard voices on the recorder that weren't ours. And of course, we're scrambling up the stairs, screaming for our moms, Mom, there's somebody in the basement. They're talking to us, So that was definitely one of my first experiences. And from that point, I kind of opened up where we had our water turn on when nobody was in the bathroom. We would stand on the hallway and it would just turn on automatically. Doors, like very heavy doors, glass sliding doors would just shut when nobody was home. We'd be outside and they would shut. Just weird dreams that we would have all the time. My mom would have dreams about the basement and everything sliding to one side and and we would see things in the mirrors. So yeah, it definitely opened me up to saying, wait, there's something else here. Let me figure out what this is.
That's pretty crazy. You were recording EVPs as a kid and and now you're trying to get EVPs,
Exactly.
And recognizing that they were EVPs as a kid too. Yeah. That's what's amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I didn't know the term EVP, but I knew it wasn't us. Yeah. And we were like, what's that?
That's pretty cool.
What kind of evidence did you guys get for that? Were you ever able to determine kind of what was going on there, or is it still kind of a mystery?
Yeah, did you ever happen to figure out who it was or anything?
So we actually moved out of the house when I was in 6th grade and my brother was probably in 3rd grade. And now my parents are starting to open up a little bit more and be like, oh yeah, something was going on in that house. But when we were kids, it was very much like, oh, nothing. It's not, nothing's going on, So, but if I talk to my parents now, they're like, oh yeah, something was going on in that house. So, I've actually tried to research the address to find out information about if somebody passed there or what might have possibly going on. I've actually driven by the house quite a few times to see if there's anybody outside so I could pull in the driveway and say, hey, have you had any experiences in this house? But every time I drive by, there's nobody there. So
flames are coming out of it. Yeah. Pitchforks out of the window.
Yeah, just a face,
basically.
A face in the window as you drive.
Yeah.
Right.
Waving at you. Yeah, there's Danica. Yeah. Hey, Danica.
Right. There's a sign.
would like to go back to that house actually, because I do have a lot of questions still. And I would like answers, but I also don't want to disrupt the person that's living there. And if they have no clue, because not everybody is aware of what's around them. And I'd hate to put that in somebody's mind if it's not happening to them.
Or create an unsettled environment.
Right, exactly,
Yeah.
exactly.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, let's move into the Waverly Hills. So, who wants to share the history of it for us?
Yeah, I can share. Waverly is inside Louisville, Kentucky. So for us, it was like, what, a 6-hour drive, or it should have been a 6-hour drive, but it ended up being an 8-hour drive with traffic and all of that going through Columbus. It opened in 1910 as a 2-story hospital for about 40 to 50 people. But then Jefferson County was hit with tuberculosis. They called it the White Plague. So they actually ended up building onto it in 1912, which is 2 years later. They added about 40 more rooms, and they actually made the brick building. And then in 1914, they added 50 more beds, including a wing for children who not only had tuberculosis, but they also patients that were there. If there was nobody else to watch their kids, they would stay there in that wing.
Yeah.
And then I think it was, what year was it that it was like, how many, 400 people or?
1926.
1926.
Yeah, around 1926, it became, it went from 40 to 50 to 400 plus.
400 plus. So then you get overcrowding and things like that. It did end up closing to be a tuberculosis center in 1961 after the introduction of antibiotics. So there was no need for that anymore. So then it became Woodhaven Geriatric Center, which was extremely overcrowded, patient neglect. It housed patients with dementia, a lot of elderly with mobility issues and limits, and with mental issues as well. So it kind of was a hodgepodge of everybody being pushed into one area. And then in 1982, the state closed it. There were complaints about neglect, and
they would let patients wander the halls, dementia patients, find them in their own, waste, and it was not a good environment for them.
Yuck.
So a lot of stuff going on there, a lot of different layers of history, and
it was also, considered like an island. It was totally self-sufficient. So they basically said, what was the thing that once you went to Waverly, you became a permanent resident at Waverly. So, but then they had a post office, they had a farm, and they would get what's it called when they get their own meat? They would
butcher.
They would have a butcher for their own meat. Yeah. And they would, they were totally self-sufficient. They had a post office.
Yep.
Right? And then they had but they also had, so they had this island. You would go there, you'd be a permanent resident, right? Nobody was allowed to leave, not even the staff. So staff, patients, everybody, nobody was allowed to leave once you went. But then they would have a visiting day for the family.
Yeah, remember.
They would go back to their community.
Yeah.
There was this atrium there that they pointed out to us that before they realized how infectious tuberculosis was, like every Sunday, the patients could visit with their families on Sundays. They would come, but then they put an end to that after they realized that it was just fueling the fire of, the infections and people getting tuberculosis. So,
wow.
One other thing I know that I thought was interesting, in the hallways, there's 2 sides of the hallway. One side had an open air balcony that they would wheel the patients out for open air, because originally they thought that open air was a cure for tuberculosis.
Yeah.
Plugs for the wall and audio jacks for music.
Yeah. Yeah, and then on the other side were the patients that they
says
deemed
live
incurable.
people ignore the
So they were
strange and
small,
unusual.
dark rooms with a
Find
little
myself
window.
in
So basically, you
strange and
knew
unusual.
that if you were moved to that side of the hallway, that they did not expect you to live.
Wow.
Like 2 weekends ago? 2 weeks ago?
Yeah, 2 weeks ago.
Okay.
Yeah.
The beginning of September, first
Yep.
week of September.
Yeah. Very recent.
Yeah. Perfect time because I hate to go investigating when it's like 0 degrees out and
No, that sounds miserable.
it's
Windows.
balcony.
So,
But yeah.
what was like your first initial reaction, like when you pulled up to it and you got out and started walking in? Like, how did it feel? What did it seem like?
Well, at the gate, it was, you had to be let in at this gate, and they've had a lot of trespassers in the past. So they have cameras everywhere, and you have to call a number and they come and bring you. And then you follow them up, and it's this winding hill, and it's like, are we ever going to get there? And it's
Wooded.
just wooded
Oh, wow.
trees and, makeshift nativity scene that wasn't put quite together yet. It was strange, but it was very almost kind of ominous, I would say, on the way up there.
And it was just getting dark too as we were driving up.
So very windy, and you could see like paths going up through the woods. So you could see like where somebody could be, making their way up there.
It's massive. So, I mean, in anything you walk up to that's massive, it's awe-inspiring in a way, but this was just, I don't know, you could feel the history because, it's been abandoned. It just sits there vacant now, and everything just, like, there's a lot of residual activity there.
Yeah, but they are doing a lot of work on it right now. They're trying to raise funds with the roof and things like that.
They put in new windows too in their main level.
New windows in the main level.
And they have events there now, too. It's interesting.
Irene, as a medium, when you first came up, what did you feel anything immediately?
There is an energy that comes off of the space. Any place that's specific number of deaths there. So, I mean, there is an energy that comes off of the space. So, did I feel scared? Some of it comes from, knowing I didn't know all of the history when I got there, but knowing what it was before as a sanatorium.
Yeah.
There are a lot of deaths there. So you could just, part of it was just me physically understanding what happened, but a majority is this energy.
So when we talked to you yesterday, you guys had some very interesting stories to share with us. What will you talk to us about Lois?
Yes, Lois. Okay, so on the second floor of the sanatorium, they have information regarding a woman who was there, a younger woman. She ended up dying there. She's born in 1928, died in 1956. She shared a room with her sister, Audrey. They both had tuberculosis. So coming in here, Irene did not want to know very much about the history in the spot. So when we went on the tour, we asked them to just tell us, like, this is the operating room, or this is where, we did not want a lot of information. So we didn't want to front load you, basically.
Yeah. You definitely could feel it. And I couldn't go into the room.
Yeah.
But something was keeping me, like, energetically from entering the room. And I out of, how you feel that level. I mean, Jenny, I'm sure you know how you feel that level of respect for what you're picking up energetically. That's, for me, something that just stopped me. I couldn't enter the room because I felt like I was intruding. I wasn't allowed in a way, and not in a, like a demon is blocking me kind of way, something like that. It was just that energetic shift. And so I don't know if you did.
So then what did you first what you saw was
I saw a person laying on the bed on their back, and they were covered with a sheet, and they had short hair. It was longer but short hair hanging out. And so because it was short hair and the time frame of the building, my first assumption was that it was a male. And then later on realized that, once it moved into, because that was just an image in my mind, and once it moved to an actual physical person in like a clairvoyance state, I realized it was a woman that I was actually seeing. I just made an assumption because of the short hair that it was a male, because I hadn't seen any other features. And then, is there anything more you want to say about the room before I continue on, or?
No, go ahead.
So then they had me, so they grabbed me a chair from inside the room, and I sat outside of the room and started to try and communicate. And I actually pulled out a notepad and started to do some automatic writing as well. And
I just want to say before you go any further, I'm so proud of you that you got automatic writing to work, because it don't work for me.
It's fairly new. It kind of just, it blossomed like out of the blue, and suddenly it became part of things that I do now, because initially I just used it to focus. Mm-hmm. I would draw some stuff, and then it just turned into something more. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Again, it's like not me, right? It's them. Yeah. So when they decide to take it away, it goes away. So I'm just grateful that it came through like it did. So, and I'm sure you'll have that same thing happen. I have no doubt. What were we saying? So
you were outside of the room with the chair.
Yeah. And so we started the communication process, right? And the weird thing is there was actually, I was getting something else at the same time. So I was actually experiencing a piggyback. So one of the people on the team, one of the investigators, was actually had somebody that was coming through, but at the time I didn't realize it, and she kind of was not saying anything because she wasn't sure if it was coming through for her, until I started to kind of bring out like a name. And then that's when she spoke up and she said something, and she asked, could it be possible that somebody else, you could be picking up other people? And as you know, we can get, that's a giant facility, right? 6,000 plus deaths, and their family members, and, all the people that were like on our team that decided to go on this trip together and do this investigation, like all of their people, so you could pick up energy from anywhere. Mm-hmm. And so I told her, I said, you could possibly, that happens, and I explained all of that, and it's a piggyback probably if it happens that way. And then that's when she told me she had lost a friend, and it was like the anniversary of her death, and she had been thinking about her all the way down, to Kentucky. And so and through the automatic writing, so while I was communicating with Lois, the automatic writing was actually communicating with her friend.
Wow.
And I sketched like a person sitting in a certain type of position, and I initially thought, yoga or something like that. And then she told me she did horseback riding, and the position looks like somebody sitting on a horse. So so that came through automatic writing, but the clairvoyant side of me actually was communicating with the spirit. And so the crazy thing that happened, for me, if we work on like a REM pod, or we do like the flashlight experiment or something like that, I want, like we all do, we want to see repetition. We want to see something happen over and over again. But sometimes patterns that you can't quite explain, unless like they have to be a pattern, a real pattern, because of the way that it's not happening as a result of exterior circumstances or something like that. It's happening in accordance with communication. And so this was new for me. It was totally random, and like I was not expecting it. But I would ask a question and she would respond a yes, but she would set the REM pod off at the same time. So she was validating me to the people with me when she was saying yes. And it happened many times in the reading.
Yes.
That's awesome.
And then Irene was saying,
And I did no
this
questions.
is what I'm hearing. This is what I'm hearing from you. Is that correct? And then the REM pod would go off.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's
So
awesome.
I know
have a
probably
quick
a
question
lot more
about-
happened and I just don't remember.
Right. Well, I know the whole session was about 50 minutes and you thought it was like 10.
But
Like
15
You were
minutes,
like,
yeah.
oh, it's just 15 minutes. I'm like, no, it was like a whole hour that we were
Wow.
sitting there. What I felt was like so interesting is she started on the outside of the room, and then as she was getting into her mediumship, she would pick up her chair and move it in a little bit more and a little bit more, and like it just kept getting closer to the bed and closer to the bed, and then like so you were right next to the bed towards the end of it. So like how did that? Did you feel better after a certain point or felt more welcomed or?
So, you know how you kind of come up to somebody and they're anxious, they're like nervous about who you are, they're scared.
Mm-hmm.
So it was kind of like that. It was that kind of experience. So almost as she was warming up and trusting me more, I was able to move closer to her. And it just so happened that all the people that were there in that space at that moment were all women. And so she actually was more welcoming, and apparently found out later that there's a lot of aggression with males that enter that room as well. We just happened to be all women at the time. And so I think she just felt safer and safer with us, especially as the story about her came out more and more about what she came through telling me, not so much the history tells us about what happened in that room.
And you did feel a male presence there, right?
Yeah.
At one point?
Yeah, it was on the like other side of the, so because again, as Danica said, it was separated with two sides, right? So there was a hallway that would run through the middle. And so I was in her room, and then outside of the room in that in-between area was where there was that energy of a male, until she started to show me a story. But the energy of that spirit was kind of toward the outside. It wasn't allowed into the space, but the view that I had clairvoyantly was of him in the space historically.
Yeah. What did you want to ask, Jeremy?
I was wanting to go back and clarify a little bit, because I'm a little bit familiar with automatic writing, but I don't know the whole ins and outs of it. And for people who might not know in chat, when you're doing automatic writing, are you like able to visibly read what you're writing down, or are you communicating and like the writing is allowing a communication process outside of the writing? If you want to just clarify that for me.
Sure. I mean, it can happen both ways. I mean, you could be looking down and writing something that's coming to mind, and you kind of complete a sentence out of nowhere, or you know what you're writing the whole time. But this type of automatic writing that I've been doing is more of, it comes through as maybe a single word or letter, or it's drawing that's coming through. So I'm not even looking at the paper as I go. And I'm a horrible artist in that, like in freestyle, artwork, like I can't, but so yeah, I don't look down at the paper unless I have to look down because my pen ran off the paper, and it kind of brings me back, and I have to go back and get back on the paper. For the most part, sometimes I look down as I'm talking, but I'm not really looking at the paper. It's just channeling through, at the same time as I'm doing other things, multitasking, I guess, in a way. So it just depends on the person. I also think, I learned a lot in this experience too, because it's surrounded by, because of the pandemic, we haven't been able to do a ton of investigations together, especially as a big team. And so they were watching me, and I was told, in classes that it seems like I enter into a trance state when I do my readings. And I didn't realize, but they actually observed me, and I don't know if you want to say what you observed, but I don't want to make the assumption. Do you want to?
No, for sure. It's definitely like she is not in the space that we're in, that she's in a different space, like mentally. completely, and like most of the time she is not looking at the paper at all, but yet you can see like the emotion that is in her movements and her drawing. And I mean, you don't have to be an artist to figure, not, I know towards the end you were starting to write words out too in sentences, but when you're not looking at a paper and you're writing, sometimes it's a little hard to
especially when
realize what is that, an A or a B? but it the emotion that comes through it, it's almost like it's not your own emotion.
Yeah.
But it's on the paper. Like you can see the emotion coming through.
Also, my eyes, they told me, what were you saying about my eyes?
Yeah, your eyes go almost into a REM pattern where they shift back and forth.
Like that totally caught me.
Almost like someone who might be blind, like almost like a seer, like you're not even looking at any particular thing, but your eyes are moving back and forth very rapidly.
Yeah.
So,
and as like we look out and we don't see what's right in front of us. We're seeing something else. But I've never heard it described. Like I don't see myself.
Yeah.
So when they told me, it was a little bit, not unsettling, but interesting.
It seems like it's a very vulnerable position too, to put yourself into that. So that, like when I was witnessing it, it made me realize how vulnerable she can be when she's using her mediumship. And it really, have to watch out for her because we're in places that are dark and dirty and holes and other things like that. So
yeah, I can imagine.
Yeah.
Because we are, and I'm sure chat is very familiar with some of these things we're talking about here. So they've seen that kind of state kind of firsthand. So having that description, I think, is very beneficial there. But I think a lot of people in here have been able to become familiar with that kind of thing.
And I was lucky enough to have a reading from Irene, and I can validate that she does. She goes and for me, she was literally in a different space during my reading.
Oh, and it was.
You were literally in a different place. And she's looking here and she's looking there and she's like, there's someone over here and there's someone over there. And it's like, yeah. So I know exactly what you're talking about.
Wow.
Oh, there's Joe. Hi, Joe.
Hey, Joe. How's it going? Do we want to catch up on chat real quick? Chat has been going off the hook.
Yeah, there's been a lot of stuff going on in chat. They were talking about how hospitals make them creeped out too. Somebody
was talking about how dark and sad, like they were
going into dark, sad places.
And they were asking if you got sad too, Jimmy. Like going into hospital.
Yes, I did answer that. Yes.
Okay.
I do sometimes. Mm-hmm.
I had to disappear for a second trying to get on the hamster wheel and charge up the internet a little bit. So I'm not sure what I missed when I was there.
So Joe had a good question. He said he was wondering, Irene, if you had the same experience he did, where he was writing and immediately afterward he could read it perfectly, but then an hour later it looked like gibberish.
Yes, we did have that. We did at the we also traveled to a historic inn on the way back, and it happened then. Do you remember when I told you we had an entire conversation about the number 22?
Yes.
And then I couldn't find it in my writing anywhere.
But you had seen it.
Distinctly huge number 22.
Yeah.
It was crazy.
Weird.
It was yeah, and then sometimes some of the sentences that came out, but what happens is I'll look at something and I don't expect to see anything in what I draw because it could be erratic sometimes,
Yeah.
But you'll see an image come out and pop out to you, and then everybody else once you see it and you point it out, they go, "Oh, I could see that too," or "It's interesting." And but that was really weird to go back and not be able to find that number.
That's crazy. Yeah, that's what I'm. Every time I watch Cindy Kazel on any of her shows, and she's doing the automatic writing, and she's like, she knows exactly what it says, and I'm like, Cindy, that doesn't say any of that. It's like just like this scribbly scrabble.
Squiggle,
Yeah.
squiggle. Yeah, exactly.
There are no words in there.
Amazing.
When I'm watching like her writing, I'm actually like so close to the TV trying to see what it says.
Pausing it. Flip back, look at it again. Zoom in.
What was Lois's story?
Do you want to tell the historical story, and then I'll?
I think they want to know the story that you heard.
Well, Danica, tell us the historical part
Yeah,
first.
tell the actual story, and then.
Well, she did end up dying of tuberculosis there in 1956, and that's really all the historical information that we have as far as like how she died. But there were some things leading up to her death that Irene can talk about that we feel like it may not have been only the tuberculosis that maybe expedited her death. I don't know how you would say it, but
Yeah, so, before I even start, like I how you watch some of the shows and it's immediately people talk about this negative, dangerous spirits and things like that. When we were there, that was not the feeling of the building for me and for all of us. So, as I say this, I don't think there's malicious spirits looking to attack anybody in that space. And at least where we went in the building. And I do believe also that they're like the people that were the spirits that we're connecting with, that maybe they're not there might be trauma left behind, soul fragments left behind, things like that, as opposed to them suffering daily in those spaces. And the space in itself was a huge, just I don't know, a huge building full of residual energy. So it's like you could walk through the halls and you could just feel and see daily hospital life. It was an interesting, perspective to walk in there. It just carries a lot of residual energy. So you can kind of see if you have opposing energies walking into a space, you can get an opposing response, so I can see that happening. So in this space, she shares that she was getting frustrated because she was very sick and she was being kept in her room. She was very angry about, some of the men being treated better and being out being like, especially the rich men being helped and served, by everyone. And she wasn't happy with the treatment. She was starting to kind of like, you get toward the end of life, you're sick, you're struggling, your mind gets away from you in a lot of ways, right? So she was having, I wouldn't want to say like a psychosis, but she was just having, a very strong emotional response to what was happening. I mean, maybe eventually a psychosis, but she showed me images of just her getting angry, yelling through the doors. She throws an IV bottle across the wall and hits the wall and it breaks. Apparently she did try to cut her own wrists at one point, and the orderly or whoever the guy was comes in. I'm making that assumption. That's not coming from what she told me. So the orderly comes in, the doctor comes in, and there's nurses as well, but she's just screaming and yelling. And I can tell you, like, for me, I am certain it was a cousin, not a sister, that was with her. And that was actually a REM pod moment where we were actually having the conversation. They're like, are you sure it's not a sister? And I said, it really feels like it's a cousin. It really feels like it's her cousin. And at that moment, I said, sometimes in the past, they would call cousins sisters and brothers. And could that have been something? And the REM pod went off and gave me my answer, and it hadn't gone off for a while in that moment. And so I didn't hear her physically say yes or no. The REM pod went off. So I'm going to guess that it was actually her cousin, based on the REM pod response too, and then what I was getting.
She also had made note that she really didn't like the medicine that they were giving her.
It may. Oh yeah, you're right. I forgot.
Yeah,
See, we don't. You know, we don't remember.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the medicine, yeah, was making her not feel. It made her feel worse, and she wanted to like be alert in her life, not just fade away.
Mm-hmm.
You know, and so she was getting frustrated over that as well, and it was causing her problems. And so in this rampage that she was having, her cousin was hiding to the side, and she's feeling this guilt about, you know, she was always the strong one, and now she can't maintain anything anymore, and she's kind of losing that in front of her cousin. So the orderly comes in and, you know, starts to like try to subdue her and grab her from behind, and he sub and this is a general feeling that I was getting from her and from just the space, is that they did not treat the patients as well after a certain point. And then also the female patients did not get that good of a treatment from the male, you know, staff there. And so he grabbed her, he was frustrated with her, and he wrapped his arm around her neck. And she was, you know, kicking. And so he was trying to subdue her, and he wraps his arm around her neck, and she passes out. And they lay her on the bed, and they leave her there. This is the image that was coming through. So they lay her on the bed, and they leave her there. And they don't make sure that, you know, like the whole time I was feeling like a warmth in my throat before I knew like how she like ended up passing. A warmth in my throat, like something was in there, like a gurgling. So, you know, I'm in a hospital. I'm in the sanatorium for tuberculosis. I mean, of course I'm going to feel this, but is that real? Is that really what I'm getting? Because my mind knows where I am, right? So I'm working with that back and forth in my mind, and, you know, using that analytical side, which we also call the ego, that's kind of mixing together and getting in there. But to have seen her pass this way, she did pass from tuberculosis. They came back and found her, and she was gone. And of course, she just passed of tuberculosis, according to everybody else. There's parts of that trauma that's left behind. It wasn't residual. She was present. It's just, I don't think she's present in the way that she's attacking people.
Tell her story is just huge. And I think it'll really shift some things for her and probably other spirits that are there.
I really hope so. And of course, I mean, it's not us. We're the channel, and I hope that we were utilized in a beautiful way to help that happen.
Well, that's the thing when you go into haunted places, a lot of times, especially if they're very well known and well visited, they will give you a list of go to room 200 this, and this is what we've seen, or this person hung themselves in room 502, and you can, you know, go here. And it's those aren't always true scenarios that they tell you. So it's important to go in with your own just consciousness and try to find truth versus go down a list of places where they tell you should go because that's where you're going to get, you know, the most activity per se, versus there could be somebody in room 201 that needs your attention, you know?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Yeah, like certain places just keep getting investigated, but there's stuff that happened all over the place.
Right.
So before we go on to any more stories, let's plug all of your stuff here. So I'm going to put in the link for the Tri-C Ghost Hunters. There's the website. And then there's also, they have a Facebook page. So tell us a little bit about your group you're in.
All right, so Tri-C Ghost Hunters, Greg and Kathy are our leads, and they have so much experience as far as investigating. They are really great to learn from, and they're willing to teach. And we also, you know, we do a lot of private investigations where we're helping people in their homes and businesses, which is one of the main reasons why I joined, because it's fun to go visit a place that's known to be haunted, that you're paying to go in and, you know, investigate. And it does help you with your practice on investigation. but it doesn't quite feel like you're doing as much. Well, unless you're in Waverly, but yeah, it's the group is Tri-C, so it's not affiliated with the college. It is Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Columbus. So
There's three teams.
Three teams, and we have our own little areas. So Cleveland, you were living in Columbus. You were actually on the Columbus team.
Yeah, now I'm on both teams.
So now you're on both teams.
Cleveland and Columbus.
Yep. So yeah, it's we do a lot of group activities. We have a lot of private investigations.
That's what Waverly was. We went, purely, for the sake of the investigation and to, connect with each other.
Mm-hmm. Our team also hosts investigations at Ohio State Reformatory. So we're the lead team for hosting events there.
In Mansfield, Ohio.
In Mansfield.
Okay,
And,
hold on one second, Danica. People are saying they can't hear us. This is such a mess.
Yeah, let's see if they got audio now.
They have audio now. Okay. So
Go again.
No,
We have.
Oh no,
What is this episode?
Is it gone?
Episode
12.
15 or 12. Okay.
Yes.
And we have not had just this last week. We've started getting some kind of issue, but we live in rural America.
we have our theories on that, but that's okay. We don't have to share those.
Yeah, that is. There's a guy, that used to talk about that a lot when important things are being talked about. There were lots of technical issues that seem to develop constantly. So
Yeah.
it seems like we have audio again.
Or if you ever have something to say and you just can't get the words out, but it's something important, like, I feel like that happens to me.
Yeah, but that happens in the the digital world, like in the same way.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Tri-C, I don't know how much you got of that or didn't get of that, but Cleveland, Cincinnati, and Columbus, and our group heads up Ohio State Reformatory. So when you go and
In Mansfield, Ohio.
When you go and investigate there, you'll have some team members there assisting you, and you get pizza and snacks and drinks, and we give you a tour. And if you want to go to a certain cell block, we take you there. So that's a fun thing to do, volunteering there. So
You guys said that was the Ohio State Reformatory, right?
Yes. Which is a place that I would recommend. Always get a lot of activity there. If you have investigators that are watching right now, that is definitely on a lot of people's bucket list. So it's a great place to go.
They also filmed the Shawshank Redemption there, so it's fun for that too.
Really cool.
Movie buffs.
And Air Force One.
Oh, yeah.
There's quite a few movies that have been in music videos and posters and that have been filmed there.
We should probably say too, if somebody in Ohio needs assistance, to reach out. We don't charge for services, and we also volunteer at the reformatory. So don't. A little bit though. You're like edging out, like I'm going to give you tuberculosis.
No, I keep moving out this way. I'm like,
Okay.
Irene's getting too close to me.
We're back.
Okay, I think we're back.
We are back.
We are back. Okay.
We have audio.
We have audio.
Welcome
Can you guys hear us?
Yes.
The CIA is trying to shut down the stream, but we are not going to let that happen. We're going to continue on with the important information that y'all need to hear about tonight.
Yes.
And while we still have audio, hopefully we keep it for the rest of the night. They are talking about some really interesting things. Oh, you got ads.
Okay, hold on. Let the ad finish.
Yeah, we are talking about some really important things, some really cool opportunities that I think that they are talking about here. So,
Okay.
let's go ahead and
Oh God, what is
let them
happening?
discuss that again.
You say it, because when I say it, that's when everything goes wrong.
She wrapped up her damn
We have gift sets.
So we have Tracy doesn't charge for services, so even OSR, all the people on the team are volunteering to do the tours and things like that. But to do private investigations, if anybody is in the Ohio area and they are having issues or they feel like something might be going on in their homes or their businesses, to go ahead and reach out. We don't charge for our services. That's the beautiful thing about Greg and Kathy and why they started this group, and so that's what draws us to it as well. So if you need any help and you live in Ohio, we have Cleveland, Columbus, and Cincinnati, so North, Central, and Southern Ohio. You just go to the website and contact us.
So I put those links back in there. And then you also have a really cool event that you guys do every year. Will you tell us about that?
I want to specifically talk about that one because
I
don't know. Me and Medium Jenny Lee might have to make a weekend getaway for that one. So go ahead and tell us about that.
Oh yeah, so every year we have Parapsychon, which is it's at the Ohio State Reformatory. It is a psychic paranormal medium fair festival. We have celebrities, speakers, vendors. It's a great event. It gets bigger and bigger every year. There is a meet and greet for celebrities. So we will do a lot of the same celebrities are coming next year, but you can meet them and talk with them. You can buy a ticket for that. You can just come during the day. It's a 2-day event. It's at the third weekend of May. And also it's on our Facebook page too, the information there. There's also a celebrity ghost hunt. So you can be a VIP member and you can actually investigate with Dave Schrader or Amy Bruni or whoever.
The Ghost Brothers.
The Ghost Brothers came this past year.
Dave Schrader.
Mm-hmm, yep. Heather Taddy, Andrea Perrin from the Conjuring House. She was there. And just a lot of speakers. So Mike Rickesecker was, they have their own set. There's talks about UFOs, Bigfoot, anything paranormal realm, Jersey Devil, cryptids and psychics, and
there's psychics and mediums reading also throughout the event. I mean, and it spans two wings of the prison, so there's a lot going on.
You can also take the actual prison tour while you're there. They won't have guides during that time, but they have the little self-guided tours that you can take. Audio tours. You can walk around the prison and learn about the history. So that's always exciting.
It's May 20th to the 21st. So I think it starts at 10 a.m. the 20th and ends at 5 p.m. the 21st. And usually the ghosts, the investigations are that
Saturday night.
Yeah, that Saturday night.
So
that sounds really cool.
Yeah,
and you could go. Really, the links we gave you have the Facebook page, the event page you can access that gives updates of all the new vendors, all the guests that are coming in. I mean, it's still not until May, but they're already posting.
They're posting
things that are
people that are already scheduled to be there. So
that's awesome.
Yeah, so we're excited.
If you're looking for a paranormal a getaway plan this coming year, I think that's probably one to look at. I've moved that to the top of my I would like to do list for sure. Not to mention, I don't know if I've talked to you guys about that, but I have a little bit of a connection. Come out your way. My dad's from Indiana, so I have about 30 minutes out of Cincinnati, so I'm familiar with that area. So I'm always looking to get back to that part.
He's always trying to make an excuse to go to a Cincinnati Reds game. So.
I'm a Cincinnati Reds fan. So any reason to get to the Cincinnati area and Ohio and stuff like that, I'm down for. So that is definitely in our wheelhouse.
Yeah,
so we will keep that in mind.
I hear Cincinnati has a lot of haunted areas.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are there any that you know, like that you would suggest us visiting, or?
I don't, because my dad's from there, but I grew up on the East Coast. I just go back to visit family. So I don't know a whole lot about that specifically. I've stayed out there quite a bit, but nothing about that. But
No spooks.
yeah, don't know any stories. I know that, there's a lot of frontier places around, like just, a lot of people lived hard lives,
Yeah.
and, in the past there. So I'm sure there's
Tropical Ohio.
plenty of
Come and visit.
yeah. So, yeah, especially if you're in driving distance, that Indiana, Ohio, Kentucky, maybe even, Michigan, something like that. Definitely check that out. Yes, Joe, airplane tickets are absolutely insane right now. I was looking at purchasing one the other day, and I just turned the website off.
And cried in the corner for a minute.
Yeah.
Which is
If
funny
you can
because
even get anywhere, because they like a lot of flights are canceled like consistently now.
Yeah. We flew to California in June, and I was able to buy tickets last spring, and they were fine. Like I flew my whole family out there for a decent price, and then just this fall, I was looking at flying up to Maine for an event, and it was like $700 for like a single ticket,
Just for one ticket. Yeah.
So yeah, it's pricey right now. It's pricey. So
Yeah.
I know gas is expensive, but you're probably better off taking the car. So anyway.
Yeah.
Okay. I think there might have been some other things we were talking about. I think we hit a lot of that, but we talked about, we have the links in there. So hit up the Facebook link, and the website for them, and go check them out. Follow them on social media. It seems like we're doing okay now. So do you want to get into
what kind of evidence did you guys capture that when you went there that night?
So we did get some EVPs, but they weren't like Class A EVPs where you could just flat out tell exactly what it's saying. But a lot of investigation, you can go through a whole evening and not really get a solid piece of evidence. And I know you've been on a team before, right?
Yeah, we were both on on an investigation team.
So the amount of time that you're there, and it's not like the ghost shows, obviously, where they're getting a piece of evidence every 10 minutes.
Yeah, which isn't true either. Yeah.
Right. Because film for like 5 days, and they pick out the best of the best and put it in a half-hour show.
Yep.
Where, we did get, shadows out of the corner of our eyes there. Several people, heard, some coughing.
Yeah. Some shuffling on the ground, like a leg is dragging.
Yeah, we did get some of that, but as far as EVPs go, I've been through my stuff, and we did hear what it sounds like. We were actually just talking and not really doing an EVP session.
Like it always happens.
Always happens, where you're not really asking questions. They just have little comments that they like to make while you're talking. And somebody said, I hope we can go up to the 5th floor. And then we listened to it afterwards, and right afterwards, I hear somebody go, I hope they leave. It sounds like I hope they leave is what it sounds like to me. But, I heard some other people listen to it, and they're like, to me, it sounded like I said, I hope they leave. But in that kind of like snarky little tone.
It's like, oh my goodness, get out of here.
Yeah. Exactly. How long are they going to be here for?
Yeah. We got stuff to do, and these ladies just keeps hanging around.
Right. Yeah. Asking us questions.
You did have that weird thing too, where you kept hearing Lauren ask for room 502, but Lauren has no recollection of asking to go to room 502, or if we were in room 502.
Yeah. So this isn't paranormal, but one of the investigators that was with us, I kept going through my recordings, and almost every recording she asks, is this room 502? And I can tell it's her voice. I know it's her. And I I called her. I said, hey, why did you keep asking if this is room 502? She's asking on the second floor, the third floor, the fourth floor. I'm like, no, Lauren, this is not.
Right.
But like, I'm asking her, why do you keep asking that? She goes, I don't even remember asking about that room.
And that's the room where they have the story of the nurse hanging
The
herself.
nurse the story goes is she was pregnant and by possibly one of the doctors, and they actually found, it's kind of a trigger warning, but they found her fetus in the piping and she was hung. So
Yuck.
wow.
so it could have been a forced abortion. It could have been, any one of those things. I don't think it's documented. I think it's one of those stories where you come in and they tell you, and this happened here, and this is what we think. So
Yeah.
I do know that other paranormal shows have caught evidence in 502. We kind of didn't go to 502.
No, we actually didn't. That was really weird. But I did see a nurse in the major surgery room, but it was on the 4th floor. And but she wouldn't speak to me. So I don't know if she was just sitting in a residual spirit or she just stood there in the major surgery room with us. So
what do you guys think was going on with Lauren's voice asking for 502? Do you think it was really her, somebody mimicking her voice?
What was that? Did you say there was
Doppelgangers, which kind of actually, that was the only part that really freaked me out, because I can't imagine following somebody into a room thinking that it's somebody else, and then when you get in there, they're not there. Like that, I think would be unnerving to me.
Yeah.
Especially if you think you're following somebody that you know.
And the state of the building too, and how unsafe it could be.
Right. But that actually has happened at OSR too, where there has been somebody who's leading a tour, and all of a sudden half of the tour goes off into another direction, and they're asking them, hey, you're going the wrong way. You're supposed to be following us. And they're like, oh no, we are following that man that, was walking down that way. And, and every single person, and they weren't even related, could describe the man that they were following, but then he just like disappeared through bars or something like that. So
sounds like that guy's having fun.
Right.
You guys want to come in here and keep pestering us? I'm going to split you guys up.
Right, exactly. But yeah, there are. I didn't see any doppelgangers. Did you see any doppelgangers?
Well, not that I know of.
Yeah.
Exactly.
What if Danica's a doppelganger right now?
All the times I was complaining and in a bad mood, that was my doppelganger.
What if Danica's really at home right now? And she's a doppelganger right now. Okay, so you guys had another really crazy story about Waverly Hills with the Estes method, and you want to share that?
Yeah, so that was on the 5th floor. It was close,
but not 502.
Not in 502. It was outside of room 502. There was an area that was very open, but it was, how would you describe the area we were in?
It was almost like a recreation area, and then they would go out onto the roof, and they had an area where they could play on the roof. So it's kind of like leading into the outdoor recreation area. So I don't know if they had beds in there at the time. I didn't see any when I was, in that residual state, but
they did have pictures of swing sets being on the roof, where the kids could play and swing and things like that. And they do a nice job putting all the pictures they have on the wall there, so you can kind of see how life was back then, which we kept from.
I'm like, oh great! Don't tell them I was looking at pictures.
Do not. No, I said do not. Like, okay, shield your eyes. There's pictures on the wall so that you get a good idea. But I know when we first went up to the 5th floor, you did see a child on the roof.
Saw four of them, I think it was. And they were like ranging in ages. There's a young, like a little one, like 2 to 3 running around. And then, older kids anywhere from, 11 to maybe 7 or something, like somewhere around that. It's hard to tell when they're that, because some are,
Yeah.
with age. But the little one was running. And so, yeah, so we did see the first time we went up there. And actually, I wasn't the only one that actually, I visually saw it, but some people would come up to me and ask if I actually saw children because they felt that there were like a few children running around with us.
Yeah. And then, so that was the first time we went up there. And then we were like, well, we kind of take your lead on things when you have.
I have no idea they're doing.
We don't tell her this. I'm like, let's go back up to the 5th floor. I'm like, I think Irene was feeling something up there. So
no idea.
So we go up to the 5th floor and we decide, we're going to try the Estes method out up there. And we had a few people in our group at the time, and each one of them had a chance. So I had the headphones on and the blindfold. And I'm not sure. Does everybody know what the Estes method is?
Well, you just explained most of it. Somebody wears headphones and a blindfold, and then other people ask questions, right?
Yeah. And you have a spirit box, and it's radio waves that are coming through.
Streaming.
So you're listening for a spirit that would be communicating through the radio waves, and then you would hear them on the headset, and then you would people that do not have the headset on would be asking you questions, and then hopefully the answers that I'm hearing are matching up with the questions that they're asking. So
just to go over that one more time. So someone will be like blindfolded and have a headset on where all they can hear is the sound coming from the headset, right?
Which is from the spirit box.
Which is coming from the spirit box. And then you have a group of people, a person or a group of people who are asking that person questions, but the person can't hear them.
Or
see them. And so then you're listening to responses to the questions that people are asking. Okay, there we go.
Yeah, and the person under says the things out loud that they're hearing. Yeah.
Sometimes I just want to clarify, because sometimes some people
don't know.
Don't know. So I just want to make sure we get that clarified. Okay, so go ahead. Sorry, I don't want to interrupt.
No, that's okay. I had done it first, and we had gotten some responses, and then one of the other people in our group had done it, and they had gotten some responses, and then Irene decided she wanted to try it out.
That's the investigator side of me, trying to figure out that balance. Learning lessons.
Molecular biologist. Irene was like, "Give me the headset."
Right.
But Cindy Kaysa told us as mediums, we are the tool, Irene, and you learned that lesson that night.
Absolutely right.
Continue.
Oh yeah. So we start asking questions, and we realize that Irene is not really saying a lot of responses, which, you get a long period of time. And when you have your headphones on and your blindfolds, a minute feels like 10 minutes. And you're waiting for something to come through, and you want to be definite.
And I think I said it out loud, like they would rather speak to me. Why do I have headsets on? Or did I say that out loud?
You said something about, you actually said she has a gift. Like they were saying she has a gift.
I have a gift. I have no idea. I said.
Yeah. So
it came through, in the spirit box. It wasn't even me saying that. Now it's coming back to me. Yeah, it came through. Yeah.
So we asked, would you rather just speak to her, how you would normally speak with her if it's easier?
And mind you, like the blindfold and the earphones. So I don't know they're doing this.
And you said yes. So you must have heard it in your headset. So then I
said it out loud, yes.
Yeah, we tell them, well, tell her to take off the headphones so she can talk to you like she normally would talk with you. And Irene, I'll let you take it from here.
And chaos ensued. And Irene was not happy in the end. Let's just say she's asking Cindy for her forgiveness, not listening to my teacher. It was interesting. So it's almost like, in order to prove that I am real, they went to the utmost extreme to make it happen. So I hear, take your headphones off, take everything off. And I'm ignoring it because I'm being a scientist right now and an investigator. I want to give them the information that they need. They're asking me questions.
Are you hearing that?
That's in my mind's eye. Like that's not audibly. I'm hearing it in my mind. And so I'm stubborn. So it's not a good combination. So I insisted, no, I'm staying on. I need to listen to give them responses to their questions. And then it kept getting progressively worse. No, you need to get them off. You need to take it off. And I'm still ignoring it. And then it got to the point where it was like, they're going to leave you. Take them off. And so it started playing on those fears and insecurities when you're with a group of people, and you're in a scary place and dark place. And it got to the point where it actually riled me up so much and made me so scared that I actually just took everything off, and they're just like looking at me, and they're all sitting there, and then I don't even remember what I said when I took my everything off.
Well, we were looking at you and thinking, man, she's not really getting a lot of responses. She's not saying anything. But the whole time she's sitting there, and you can't tell because we're just sitting in the dark. She's, hearing this and just, stewing and stewing and stewing. And we're just, asking questions just like normal, not even realizing the trauma that's going in her mind as they're telling her they've already left, you're here by yourself, you have to take your headphones off now. Yeah. So it was definitely a learning experience for investigators who are working with mediums, and to protect them, and
and they're going to use the easiest method to communicate, not a spirit box with me, right? So but like, I was trying to validate scientifically what was coming through in my mind as well, and that just did not work in that situation. We have to do something more controlled, more like, I'm not going to use a spirit box. I'll just have me in a space with a blindfold, and this way I know what's coming through my mind is actually like a communication that needs to happen, and something that I need to do physically before it gets out of hand. But it almost felt like I couldn't even explain it to them. Like, you don't want to you're open, and as Danica said earlier, we're so vulnerable in that position, and it was definitely a lesson for me. Like, it's like I got stuck open, and the machine was out of control, and I needed to find that that emergency stop button and reset it. And it took me a lot of time to just kind of come down off of that, because it wasn't just your third eye like stuck open, but it was like all those insecurities were there too, that thank goodness we did all the shadow work that they insisted we do, to even practice doing this, because it influences everything that we do. If that shadow work wasn't done, I don't think I would have been able to get out of that cycle as easily or as quickly as I did. But it took a while. I mean, I was still trying to get out of that, because you still want to, you have to come to that point where you're like, because I still wanted to try and give them information and evidence through the rest of the night. And there wasn't that much of the night left, but I had to think of myself in that situation where we're taught, to make sure that we, make sure we're safe and it's not affecting us physically. And, I had to come to that point and just give in and say, I got to focus on taking it back and taking control again and clearing my energy in that way, and let them just do the investigation, and I'll just do normal human regular things that we do, physically with each other in terms of investigation. Hold an EMF meter and do that, something simple. And yeah, so I reset. I mean, by the evening I started to feel better, and then I went to bed, and that morning I was fine, and we continued on to the next location. And yeah, so it's definitely something for investigators to think about when working with a medium and how they utilize them. And it was definitely a rookie mistake for sure. And I take ownership of that. There's no way that I can be angry with them either. Mm-hmm. Anybody that would get angry with them for something that happened like that, it's ridiculous, because they had no idea. They really didn't know. They really thought they were communicating, and they were going to communicate through the spirit box, and they were going to say, take off your headphones in the spirit box, or stop this, or whatever, one word answers, however that comes through. And definitely did not do that. And we had when you have a good team around you, they listened, they were understanding, they wanted to learn and see what actually happened. And the first thing, we talk about is then, okay, we want to protect you and problem solve. And that's how you have a great group of people around you as well. Mm-hmm. And it's the only way, to learn. And, it's almost embarrassing, but at the same time, sharing it, I hope, helps other people when they go into those situations, mm-hmm. because it was a big space, a ton of energy. So you're really taking it in. It's not just you in a 1,700 square foot house trying to see if there's something going on. So it was interesting. Sure.
Joe said that's scary, but a good lesson if I start doing investigations. Yeah. And I think, too, I don't think that the spirits were trying to really scare you either. I think they were just trying to get you to take the damn headphones off. Exactly. And they were like, how can we get her to take the headphones off? Yeah. Well, let's tell her that they're leaving, and then she has to take the headphones off.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
And they had no idea that you were reachting that way either. Yeah.
Nope.
Yeah.
Yeah, and they were children around us. Yeah.
Yeah.
That's very interesting. Very interesting.
Yeah, that's yes, now you know. You are the tool, Irene.
Now Thank you. Noted.
Yes, duly noted. Will not forget. Check that off the list.
But having a medium on the team really is a great experience. I have never investigated with a medium before, Irene. So it helps. You help validate each other a little bit with the equipment and the scientific and all of that. So it really does. It's like one more layer of getting down to the truth.
Yeah, just more
evidence. Beautiful.
Yeah.
You're right. In that beautiful moment where all these things connect and validate each other, that's the best. That's the sweet spot, I guess.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So, Danica, what is your favorite method or instrument or technology to use when you're investigating?
Ring, of course.
Of course.
Yeah, it's Irene. No, I have to say, I have felt guilt using her.
Yeah, they did. They said that a lot on the investigation.
I did. I said I felt like I was using you as taking you out of my bag and using you. I felt a little bit.
Well, let's put Irene on the table and see what she gets.
Yeah, exactly. So, no, Irene, you have to go into the dark basement. But no, I really think, as far as I'm concerned, I'm an audio person. It doesn't really sound like it, but I love EVPs and I love my recorder. And
she does.
If somebody has something that they think that they've caught an EVP, they usually come to me first and say, Danica, what do you think about this? Because I'll say, oh, that was somebody, they farted, or, somebody just coughed, that was nothing. Or wait a second, we might have something here. Let's delve into this. So, but yeah, it does help to work in a group.
That's real ghost hunting, everybody.
Yes, yeah. Flatulence. It's real ghost hunting.
Was that a real fart or a ghost fart?
Yeah, exactly. But no, I would have to say my recorder, and that was my first piece of equipment. You know, the cheapest thing you could buy at Best Buy was a $30 recorder, and man, do you get some good EVPs on there. But I don't have a REM pod yet. I have made myself an SLS camera that I don't use very often. I will be honest with you. Don't tell my husband that. But you know, a lot of it is intuition, and even though I would never consider myself a medium, I do also feel things and get kind of led into different places.
She wanders in an investigation, and I've never really seen it until like I've never seen it. I saw it at Waverly. So she'll wander into a room, and you can actually, you know, other people can assume it, but you know, I picked up that you know, she's almost like pulled away in like a trance.
Yeah.
And she wanders. She totally just like becomes quiet, and it's almost like she's, I don't know. Yeah.
Something else.
And then wanders away. You really have to like keep looking for her. Like when you're walking through.
That's the running joke, that they'll find me in a hole somewhere, just in a fetal position. Like, but it's nothing as
put a little leash on her.
Right. Exactly. Oh yeah, that's what Lauren
little
says.
Backpack.
Put a backpack leash on me just in case, you know, I wander off. But yeah, and a lot of investigation is kind of feeling your way through it. So, especially when you're in the dark, like really feeling and hoping that a spider is not going to drop on your face is really, that would be, you know, the scariest part of investigation is a spider drop.
That terrifies me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
Joe,
voice recorder.
Joe said something really funny. He said residual flatulence.
That's a good one. We're going to use that.
Smells, though, too.
Oh, yeah, we do get the smells.
Yeah, you do get smells on investigations that they're there for a second and then they're not there, like cologne or cigar, like
gardenia. Yeah.
So, and then you're like, did you smell that? And they're like, we didn't smell anything. I'm like, I smell it. So just using your senses. So that's
definitely.
Yeah, and paying attention to things that could, like, you can easily kind of dismiss, like your brain almost wants to dismiss it. You have to say no, like, no, this is something I need to recognize.
Yeah.
Because sometimes it's like, it doesn't fit in the box. Our brains are just like, this doesn't belong here. And if it's in, like, it's not happening.
right.
So what do you guys have planned for next investigations? Do you have anything planned? Anything coming up?
Well, Irene and I don't want to say where we're going because I don't know if that's a thing, but we're doing an investigation on Saturday, right? Friday night, and a business that has a lot of books.
We can't say what the business
is. A business that has a lot of books in it. Asked us to come investigate, or asked our team to come investigate because they've been having some paranormal investigations or some odd happenings, if you will.
Yeah.
And so,
I don't know what they are. I just know they're odd.
Yes. I'm doing research on it. A lot of times Greg will shoot me an address or a town and say, hey, can you do some investigation on this particular town or address or where people lived, if people died there, things like that. And then I'll give him the information. I might not even go on the investigation. I might not be able to go because of work or whatever else is going on. But I like to look at the history of things and send it to him. And then, he obviously gives it to the team members that are going there. Unless they don't want to know, because sometimes people like to go in blindly.
Yeah. Even investigators will go in blindly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Cool. I mean, we'd like to, a lot of the investigation, just like the door that would close in Waverly, they're like, oh, this door would close by itself. I mean, it's a giant steel door on a spring hinge, and you slightly move it, the slightest movement, open windows, wind, and it just shuts. So like, that's the part of so going in blind, and a big part is determining, whether something is legitimate or not.
Yeah, trying to debunk stuff
Yeah.
that people have said, well, we always see this happen at this time. And then, well, that's when, that's when the high school football team gets out and the cars are going down and it's causing shadows and so it's, you do try to debunk
the bass
first.
drum and from the band.
Yeah. Right. You try to debunk first.
Yeah.
And then, investigate what you cannot debunk. So,
Is there any place that like you guys have on your wish list that you haven't gotten to yet?
We actually just, as a fun event again, to like go all together, we were talking about going to Penhurst. And so, I've heard about it, and I definitely want to try. I mean, I want to see what Penhurst is like. But just personal investigations.
Too, because not only do we investigate as a team, like sometimes I go places on my own. If there's other people in the group that, can come, that's great too. But I like to go to Madison Seminary. I've really always wanted to go to the Winchester.
Me too.
So
yeah. Just for the whole construction of it.
Right, the construction of it. So, and the history and the construction, and I would like to go there.
But we have to watch you really closely there because you're going to go out a door and
get locked in some
trap. You're on the sidewalk, one of the doors that lead to nowhere.
Mm-hmm.
That's why I want to go so badly, because I can't wander there.
Well, you can, but maybe the spirits are calling you. They want to trap you in the
Right, exactly. Saw the movie about it. It was pretty good, actually. It was actually fictional.
There was a movie?
Yeah, I can't remember what it's called now, but I guess I should have known.
It was a great movie. It was so memorable.
It was. the name of the movie I missed, but it is about the ghosts that are trapped in the Winchester house. So
I've seen that movie as well. I've seen it. I can't remember if it was just called Winchester or not, but I remember watching.
Did you like it?
I remember thinking it was pretty good. I'm a horror movie buff, and I'm also like not. I love a lot of horror. A horror movie has to be really bad for me. So,
you like the worst of the worst.
Well, I like the best of the best, but I can handle the best.
Yeah.
And not to talk, I grew up in the 80s and stuff, so a certain amount of cheese is still okay with me. I liked all the Nightmare on Elm Streets and all that stuff.
Yes.
Yeah, I'm definitely down for that. Now, me and Jenny Lee has been there before.
I have been to the Winchester Mystery House.
You have?
Yes.
Ooh, share.
Well, they won't let you wander. You got to stay on the tour. There was really only one room there that freaked me out, and it was like, they think that it might have been the seance room, and it had
I was just about to think about that.
It didn't there's parts of it that are kind of missing wallpaper and things, so it's like that room was kind of creepy. And then there was another room where they had a fire and they got trapped in it for a while, and there was some residual emotional stuff in there for sure. But the rest of it, for me, it just was awesome to be there, and it didn't really have any crazy, my medium stuff wasn't going off real crazy there. It was just a really cool place.
Well, the legend says that she had seances, and the spirits that were killed by the Winchester guns were telling her how to build the rooms.
Yes.
So she kept running. Yeah. And then she was building false doors and things to trick the spirits, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's
Can't wait.
a lot of weird stuff in there.
Adam says, I saw Miss Winchester there and even got a picture of her.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
If you would if you have that picture, I will put the Discord.
Yeah, I can put it in the
link in there.
Discord.
If you want to go in there into the chat, if you have that picture, if it's not too much to ask, and throw it up there for people to see, that would be awesome. Yeah.
Says if you pay them a lot of money, they might let you wander around.
Yeah.
That's totally true.
I can guarantee it. But you're gifted enough to do it for free.
Yeah. You could probably sneak away.
Yes.
Yeah, I could probably sneak away on accident. Like I would need to tie my shoe and I'd look up and everybody would be gone and I'd wander around.
Yeah.
But that's what would happen to me.
Yeah, I don't even know if they actually have overnight investigations there or not. Probably not.
I
I don't think
Probably
so.
a museum setting. Some
Yeah.
places are like that.
Yeah, I don't think
Don't
they
wanna
do
go.
have that there yet. But you never know. Like different people take over and they allow different things.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
yeah. Yeah.
Well, I guess we probably need to start wrapping up a little
Yeah.
bit. It's 10 o'clock.
Yeah, we didn't
in
even
the East
talk
Coast.
about the Buxton Inn.
Yeah, you didn't
Yeah,
even get to
so-
it.
Another time.
Yeah, hopefully another time. We got a little messed up tonight.
Yep.
The internet's the
Stupid
interwebs or the
internet.
FBI or whoever
The FBI.
decided that we were gonna have
The
issues tonight.
Illuminati.
So yeah, we would love to have you guys back on where we don't have to restart the stream 2 times.
Yes.
So
Sounds great.
yeah, like let us know if you're interested. Once again, guys, make sure you go check out the social media if you want to throw the links back in there again on Medium Julie.
Yeah, I can do that.
And the Paracon.
Parapsychon.
Parapsychon.
Parapsychon Court
The third weekend
in May
of May.
2021. 20 to 21, May 20th to 21st.
Oh, the 20. Okay, I was like, it's 2023. That's 2023.
We take you back into the past.
Yes, we just
That's gonna be a
vortex you.
crazy.
There's
yeah, it
portals
sounds-
all throughout.
Yes.
It sounds
Time
It
travel.
sounds like it's gonna be a lot of fun.
There's
Yes.
also
It
time
sounds like
travel
it's gonna be a lot of
involved. Yeah.
If you're in that area,
We should probably add a disclaimer. We're just making that up.
Yes.
There's
No
no
time
time
travel.
travel. Would we like there to be? Yes.
that's Medium Julie's Woodhouse's time travel, so she'll be really disappointed. Now that you've made that promise.
Gotta go
Excellent.
back in time.
So yeah, go check out the links that are in there, follows, all of those things. We would love to have you guys back on to talk about more, and I'm sure by that time there'll be even more investigations. And I know there's a ton of stuff we didn't get to tonight because 2 hours somehow goes by really quick. Even
Yep.
with, no commercial, even with
It's
no
like a
commercial
reading
breaks
from
and stuff.
Irene. Like,
But it's good. It's good.
this was fun. We
Yeah.
really appreciate it. We really appreciate everybody that stayed and listened to us and wanted to
Yeah.
hear our stories.
Especially after it got jacked up twice or however many
Right.
times.
I didn't know if we were going to make it there for a few minutes. So
Yeah.
The fact that we did is awesome, and we'll try again sometime too. So next for us is Thursday night. I'll be on doing rune readings and tarot readings, and then of course we have our wonderful Friday night stream here on this channel with medium readings from Medium Julie. So we'll see you all.
And then I think next week we're going to be on Jonathan Frost's channel with Charity and doing the past, present, and future tarot readings.
Yeah, the Norn Tarot.
We don't have a date set for that yet, but it should be next week.
So if you were one of the people who wanted, who were like in the Wheel of Fortune to get a reading and you didn't get one,
Yeah,
from, the three of us
the
last
Wheel
time,
of
you can,
Fortune.
you should have a very good chance of getting one next go around. So join me on my channel, Jonathan Frost. And I don't know, I think that's about it for all the plugs and
Yes. We're going to go raid Priestess of Wonderland. She is
yeah, she's on.
cozy coloring stream and doing Tarot Tuesday.
That's nice.
And I miss her because I haven't seen her in a while. I just watched
I
her
watched
Moon
her
Day
time she's
report
streaming.
today.
It seems like when she's streaming, we're streaming. So it's been
Yeah.
hard to-
So we're going to go raid her.
Excellent.
And
All
thank
right.
you guys for watching. Thank you, Irene and Danica, for being here. And remember, don't go anywhere yet. Okay, everybody, we're going to go raid. Let's make sure I typed her name in correctly because you know me. All right, good. Here we go.
Thanks, Sylvia. Good night.